So I think some students have already joined the session. So I just presume my audio is fine for everyone. And if there's any other problems that you want me to rectify, do let me know that now itself. Hi. So I think everything else is fine. And so today is the third session of economics. Yesterday and day before yesterday we had other two sessions regarding economics. So today we'll be discussing about demand and supply. So I presume again that my audio is fine and there's no other disturbances in the audio. If that is fine, then I'll continue with the session. So yes, so today we're going to discussing about demand and supply. Previous sessions we discussed about the other sectors and other and first class about these sectors of economy and the basic criterions and basic understanding of what economics is all about. And yesterday's class we discussed about systems of the economic systems that a nation adopt. And we discussed three categories in detail. And so today we are going to study about what demand and supply is. That is, if you remember yesterday's class, we talked about extensively about capitalistic, socialistic, and mixed economy. And there, what is that they are concerned about? What is that they are studying or referring about? It's all about or a new class newspaper important topics and budget. Okay, I'll do that. Okay, I'll take a class wherein I'll explain what are the important concepts of newspapers and how to, revise from a newspaper, how to take notes from the newspaper, and on the basis of what we understand, the important news that has to be taken for civil service preparations. Okay, that's okay. I'll also come up with a video and yes, so coming back to my session, that is yesterday. So it's all about market. So understanding market, we have to know that there is two concepts related to it. That is, there is a demand and there is a supply, and there in a relation there is a price associated to all products and services in the market. So first and foremost, understand what demand is. For example, me wanting to buy an aeroplane is not a demand. I have a desire to buy it. That is, when how does it becomes a demand? For example, I need to buy this pen, and if I have money to buy this pen, for example, this pen is 10 rupees, and if I have the 10 rupees, and if I want the pen, only then that becomes a demand. Just wanting to buy something wouldn't make a demand. You also need the purchasing power or the amount required to buy the product. So demand is the total quantity customers are willing and able to purchase. That is in the market, for example, in potato. So what is the demand of potatoes? There has to be, for example, 49%. 49% of certain people of certain category of market, they are willing to buy potatoes and also they have the money to buy these potatoes. So that's how you come into what demand is all about. And demand function is the behavioral function of consumers. That is, it's all about psychological, what they want, and probably they wouldn't need potatoes. It's something else that they need. But it's, for example, I only have 10 rupees. I need to buy a pen, and also I also want to need chocolate. So it's all dependent upon my psychological behavior. I should have bought a pen, but what did I do? I, instead of buying the pen, I went and bought the chocolate. So it's totally psychological human behavior. Yes, backed by purchasing power. Yes, very good. And a supply function is a behavioral function for producers. That is, for example, like if you have remember yesterday's class, I am being the only person who needing a pen, or I demand for this pen and I have the purchasing power for this pen. For example, in a population, a small nation, for an example, a hypothetical example, a nation only have 100 people. The population of those nation is 100 people. And all the 100 people need 100 pens or they need 1000 pens each. And what happens? The nation, the production will be having only 50 or 60 pens. So they have to increase the supply. So supply is totally dependent upon the demand as well as price. And just because demand is high doesn't mean that they will supply it. They also have to look into the other factor cost also, that is how much of expenditure will be incurred, and the fluctuations of the price, and that is fall and rise of the prices, everything else. Yes, taste and preferences. For example, you wanted that, for example, we had this normal cassette tapes. If you have born from the 90s, I think you would remember, and I don't even have a cassette to show you. As an example, cassette is, the older ones that you play it in a tape recorder. So it's not just about the taste and preferences, all about the updation of technologies. There's no point in of them to completely produce these cassette tapes in bulk. What's the point? Because the technology will be updated and this will be outdated. And yes, the other factor is taste and preferences. For example, in certain like during all these monsoon seasons, when the school starts or when the schools reopen during June July month, the monsoons will be very high, and for those reasons these people, their priority will be to buy umbrellas. Okay, probably that wouldn't be their priority when it comes to like November or December, because the priority changes. And yes, these are all are the other minor important reasons why all these supplies and demands and price also fluctuate. And direct demand and derived demand. Direct demand for consumption goods and services that satisfy consumer desires, and derived desires, they are sometimes called intermediate goods. For example, demand for steel, and that is, for example, uh, there is two categories of consumers. One is a consumer like us. I need a pen, so I buy a pen. But there are pen manufacturers, and what do they need? They need, probably they'll only be creating the plastic container. They might be needing the ink of it. So they'll have to buy the ink from other sectors. So, like ultimately, the person who's using, for example, I as a normal consumer, I will be, wanting the ink and the plastic container both together, and only then I will get a pen. So, me wanting the pen as whole is a direct demand, but me wanting the ink or the other components, probably the cap or the the color of the pen and everything else, that will be my derived demand. And what is this? Umbrellas and raincoats. Yes, very good. And quantity demand is the amount of goods that a consumer is willing to buy and able to buy at a given price over a period of time. For example, in Onam seasons, it doesn't matter how much of these flowers cost. For example, people wouldn't want to buy all these flowers other seasons other than in Onam. Probably there will be people who's wanting for these things, but we'll find a surge of wanting these flowers only during the month of Onam or period during all those. So it doesn't matter for some people. Mostly they wouldn't reason out the prices. Okay, this is the price. Okay, we are going to buy, because it's all decided upon the period and time. For example, same reason like the umbrellas and raincoat. The schools are reopening and it's a monsoon time, and you cannot expect all these children to stay back at home because it's raining. They need all these essential commodities like umbrellas and all. And for those reasons, that is quantity demand and amount of good that like for a period of time. And law of demand is that all the other things remaining unchanged, the quantity demand of a good increases when its price decreases and vice versa. This is something totally universal that we all know. For example, like yesterday, I told you that when lots of farmers start creating all these, onions, what happens? When lots of farmers creating onions, supply will be more than the demands. For example, I would only need 5 onions, but there are 10 people offer me onions. So what do I do? I'll be reducing the price. Okay, you have supply in plenty. Okay, I'll reduce the price. So that is totally inversely proportional. And the price increases, demand will decrease, but the supply will go up. Okay, supply and price both are proportional, but to a certain limit. Okay, they are even having X restrictions, and we cannot say that totally universal. For example, salt. Probably the price of salt might be like 8 or 10 rupees per packet. What happens tomorrow or a year later, we find that a packet of salt costs 100 rupees. It doesn't mean that we are not going to buy the salt. So certain commodities, certain essential commodities, this is just a hypothetical situation. So, okay, never the salt is going to be 10 or 20 times the higher the price, because the government is not going to let be that. And if the situation comes arise where the essential commodities price are going up, the government will be initiating certain policies for the other consumers, so that we wouldn't be exploited. So it doesn't matter what the price of salt is, we are going to buy it anyway. So that is the law of demand. And this relation can be shown by a demand schedule and demand curve of demand function. And this is just for your understanding. And for your civil service economics, we don't have much of statistics. And these curves, just, study it. But we are not going to calculate all these demand and price fluctuations and what is the, equilibrium and all these things. We are not going to do that, but it's better that you understand it, because that will give you lots of insight into it. So demand schedule is shows the different quantities of goods that consumers willing to buy. So yes, so this is schedule, and prices and quantities normally move in opposite directions. Like I said, it's totally inversely proportional. So when the prices go up, people's demands will also go down. So for example, here they wanted 28, so the price was 4. Now it's 18, so it got reduced to 15. See, slowly this is increasing, but this is slowly decreasing. So it's totally inversely proportional. People are demanding 28. That is for a certain period of time. They are wanting 28. 28, for example, 28 shoes is that they want. So when they wanted 28 shoes, initial price was 4. And when they realized that, okay, they're demanding more for the shoes. So what we're going to do, we're going to have lots of shoe manufacturers are going to set up. So when lots of shoe manufacturers are going to set up, the prices automatically will go down, because the supply will increase, and yes, the demand will also price will increase, and the demand will also go down steadily. And this is a demand curve. One way of me trying to remember demand and supply is, for me, demand is my right hand and supply is left. So, always it's cross. So demand like this and supply like this. So this is, easier method for me. Always remember like this. Right hand is your demand, left hand is your supply, and it goes like this. Demand curve. Okay. And supply like this. I'll show you a diagram. Okay, so see, I'm sorry if this is confusing. This is the demand line and this is the supply line. I really hope that this is more clear and it wouldn't complicate the matters. This is the demand. My right hand going the opposite cross, so this is the demand. My left hand going cross, this is the supply. Alright, my side, okay, my right and left. Do not, because the camera, it becomes like a mirror effect, so don't go by that. My right hand and my left hand. My right hand is demand, my left hand is supply. So, snob effect. I don't know what snob effect is all about. I'm sorry. So yes. So most this is like x-axis and y-axis. So mostly the quantity will be this side and the prices will be this side. And determinants of demand, on the basis of what does the demand will go up and go down dependent upon the price. That is, we all know price and demand are inversely proportional. If the price goes up, demand will be down, and if the price comes down, we will want lots of it. For example, we are finding lots of discount sales. What is the effect going to be? Yes, because there are lots of discounts and price sales and all these sales happening, we'll be like, okay, the price is very less, so we'll all go together, and probably we'll bring about our neighbors also into it, and we'll starting demanding more products. And income of the consumer, yes, your purchasing power is most important. It doesn't matter what you want to buy, what is the desires. If you don't have money to buy it, what's the point of it? And it wouldn't be a demand, it will be a desire. Desire becomes a demand when you have the purchasing power. And prices of other goods, that is complements and substitutes. For example, what is complements and what is substitute? For example, I want a car, and the fuel that it needs is probably I buying a diesel car, and that becomes, for example, if I realize that the price of diesel goes up, what will I do? I'll switch to the other one. I'll switch to a petrol car. Or the other example, tea and coffee. I realize that the tea's price is going up, so I'll go for a substitute version of it. I'll go for the other alternative. So that becomes a coffee. And yes, taste and preferences. Just because it's in plenty, or just because the price is just yeah, car and fuel is complement, but diesel and petrol. I'm talking about diesel and petrol, and we are finding since the diesel price is going up, the other substitute will be the petrol ones. So instead of that, the other. And taste and preferences is, for example, we are getting lots of plenty of low price of bananas, lots and lots of supplies of bananas. And bananas are giving out for 10 paisas for a kg, or for 100 kgs we are getting it for 10 rupees. And it wouldn't matter how much of it is. If you don't like bananas, you are not going to buy it. Or even the case of oranges. And just because you don't like orange, and they are going to have lots of supplies of oranges at such cheap prices, you are not going to buy it. Why? Because you don't like it. And expectations of future prices, yes, this also comes into it. You are not going to invest in, for example, the same cassette company that I was saying. You are not going to buy, for example, during the 90s period, or even the present period. If you like, we want to talk about, you can't just buy hundreds of cassettes and keeping in store saying that okay, I could use it in later. And because that will be a very stupid thing to do, because the technology will be updated all the time, and this will be outdated, and my whole all these resources, all these products will become at waste. And advertising, yes. For example, we are finding lots of sales promotions. For example, gold, if you would take into examples, I think we are finding lots of advertisements in Malabar gold and all. So people get a sense of push towards buying Malabar gold. And the other example, I think a prominent example of advertising will be Sabyasachi lehengas. Sabyasachi was just a normal fashion designer. He wasn't much popular. But ever since Band Baja Bharat, as a reality program started, all the bride, I think most of the brides of North India, and even some brides to an extent in South India, all they wanted was for a wedding, a bride can only buy from Sabyasachi. So this came like a statement. Okay, and the other examples will be like Dettol. Uh, it's called antiseptic liquid, but we do not ask someone, okay, give me an antiseptic liquid. We just ask for Dettol. There are many Savlon and many other companies. So what advertising, that what it promotes, that's what keeps in our mind, and that's what we want. And distribution of income, yes, this is also important. This is also along with income of the consumers as well. How far the incomes are distributed. For example, in my locality, I am the only rich person, and it would be difficult for me to buy a luxurious car. I have to import it from the other places. It won't be like cheaply or readily available in showrooms nearby me. Why? Because the normal demography of these people are, yes, Tanishka also. Yeah, for example, that is my demography. Mostly people are very poor, and it wouldn't matter how rich I am. It's no, they're not gonna have in Audis like showrooms over here. Why? Because the area is generally very low. So for those reasons, distribution of income is also important. And probably I'm a rich person, and I feel that okay, it's very hard for me to buy an imported or a branded car. Probably I have to do about lots of transportation facilities has to be taken care of, and I have to invest a lot for the transportation charges. So I wouldn't buy it. Okay, chances are they could even be discouraged. And so these are the determinants of the demand and what decides for it. And types of good. And yes, so this is the example that I gave. And yeah, and normal goods are those goods whose demands goes up. Yes, same thing. For example, so these are just the ones that we already discussed. And yes, the normal goods are the ones whose demands goes up when the consumer's income increases, just like the normal ones. But the inferior goods are those goods whose demands falls when consumers' income increases. For example, when your lifestyle increases, I am a very poor person and I can only afford Lexi pen. Okay, for example, I am a very poor person and I can only afford Lexi pen. And what happens? I suddenly become rich. So now I don't need Lexi pen. My taste and preferences also changed along with it. I need a Parker pen. So these are inferior goods. So these goods becomes inferior to me. I do not need these pens anymore. I need better versions of it. And yes, for example, kerosene. When you're poor, you need kerosene as a normal one, and when you're high class, you need LPG. and probably even that you have the induction cookers and also. And different goods are those goods whose demand moves in same directions as price, and that is one prime important example. That would be like investment ones, for example, land and gold. When you realize the price is going up, you'll buy lots of gold. Why? Because you know that the price is going up, so we have to collect more of it. So for those reasons, and even land, we realize okay, real estate is a highly uh, return sort of like a business. If I buy something, it's sure enough they're gonna steadily increase the price. So I'll buy it tomorrow. I'll get two times the amount when I sell it off. And snob and Veblen goods are those goods whose demand falls when price falls. Yes, the same thing. That is the normal ones. And shift of demand curve. That is, like I said, my right hand. Okay, not your what you're saying is. So my right hand is demand, and it's like this. So when the price, see, probably here, I'm sorry, I don't have a marker. So please bear with me. Okay, suppose the price is something else. Just write X, and the price here will be x2 or something, and here the quantity will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So when we'll see the push in demand is what is talking about here. So see, from here it have a push, and what happened when the demand goes down, it's going downwards. So change in demand is reflected by shift in demand curve and is caused by change in any of the non-price determinants of the demand. That is, we discuss a few determinants over here. So any of these will. Tapioca. I'm sorry, what about tapioca? I don't know. Okay, here the curve shifts due to an increase in income or an increase in price of substitute goods. For example, here like it's X, and here it's X2, and here it's 1, and here is 2. And suppose this you had only 10 rupees of income, so you can only buy 1. So next day you're getting 20 rupees of income, so you will be buying X2. That is 2 times the, for example, here it's 5 and 10, and here will be 2 products, and here will be 3 products. And when your salary increases, you have enough and more money to buy more products at higher price and even more quantity of products. So yes, so this is a shift, a positive shift in the demand curve. And change in quantity demand is, however, reflected in movement along the demand curve and is called extension or contraction of demand. Movement from A to B is due to the change in prices of the goods, all the other factors remaining unchanged. That is, here the price, here the demand, here the price, and here the quantity. I think I should have used other forms of interfaces where I could, just write it over here with a tablet, but I don't have the technological advancement right now. So yes, so they are saying that probably this is where it was before. Okay, probably it was like this. Okay, just see the imaginary line that I'm drawing. Probably the quantity was 5 before, but now the quantity got decreased to 4. Before it was like this, now like this. Alright, I'm sorry if it is not, you can't see the imaginary line. Before the line was like this. Now the line like this, because from here it got shifted. Alright. And supply. The next important concept that we are going to discuss is about supply. Supply is the quantity of whatever that we need is there. For example, it could be just products and services also. For example, you want to study for civil services. When you open your YouTube, you're going to find lots of tutors and mentors for giving civil service coachings and all. So quantity supplied is the number of units that sellers want to sell over the specific period of time at a particular price. And law of supply states that all other factors remaining unchanged, the supply of good increases as its price increases. This can be shown by a supply schedule in a supply curve or a supply function. That is, like we said, demand and price are inversely proportional. What happens when price increases? Suppose you are a vegetable vendor or you are a farmer. You realize that, okay, the price of onions going up. So what you will do, you will start increasing lots of onions, thinking in a way that you will incur lots of profit. So when the price increases, supply will also increases, but eventually we all know what will happen. Demand will fall down, and what happens when the demand fall down? The price will also, it's actually kind of a loop. It goes about and about. And when the demands fall, the price will also go down, because why? They have lots of supplies. These onions are gonna perish in few days if you don't buy it. So we are gonna sell you for lesser price. So that's what happening. And these are the supply schedules, like we said, steadily increasing with the price. The quantity is increasing when the price is increasing. And determinants of supply, what determines you are gonna get loss of supplies or you gonna get less of supply? Price. And cost of production, yes, just because lots of people want a pen doesn't mean that I will be able to supply it. Suppose the cost of production of the pens will be too much and the expenditure cost is something that I won't be able to incur. So the cost of production has to be taken into consideration, and the technological progress. For example, these solar panels, I'm very sure that if our technology is advanced so much, and if we are going to be like private enterprises and we're going to sell out all these solar panels, I'm very sure that many people are going to demand for all these solar panels at their houses because it's very much cheaper compared to the other forms of electricity. But we don't have the technological progress. Our state government or even the private enterprises, they don't have the technological advancement to invest in those kinds of areas and price of related outputs. For example, this comb that I need. Okay, I cannot say I'm going to sell it in 200 rupees because a different company of same comb will be selling it for 10 rupees. So I cannot just simply state that I'm only going to sell this for 200 because that's totally absurd. And all factors other than price cause a shift of supply curve that is called change in supply. And this is what equilibrium is, when perfect balance supply and demand. That is, for example, I demand 10 apples and I'm going to be supplied with 10 apples. So that is a balanced system and determines the market output and prices. Yes, all these are taken into consideration, the price and everything. You cannot ask farmers to stop cultivating or cultivate more, or you cannot ask certain enterprises to sell at lower prices or higher prices. So it's sort of like a free trade market, like we discussed yesterday. Our market is totally free trade market, and it somehow comes into equilibrium, then we are lucky. And market force drive market equilibrium. That is when price is less than equilibrium level. What happens when price is less than the equilibrium level? The demand will be more. All right, do not be scared by all these signs and all. It's just simple terms. They're just writing it down. So it says whatever I explained, it's been written down. And that is when the price is lesser than the equilibrium level. Obviously, the demand will be excess, and the amount by which quantity demanded exceeds the quantity of supply. More than what they can offer, I need more. That is when the price is less, I'll be wanting more. Okay, think it like that. And when the price is more than the equilibrium level, the supply will be less. When price goes up, yes, supply is gonna go up. And equilibrium price is a market clearing price, no excess demand or no excess supply. And we all know like what equilibrium is, when the balance is there. And equilibrium price is when both are balanced, no excess demand or no excess supply, both are of equal power. And surplus and shortage, these are just basic concepts. Surplus is having more of it and shortage is having less of it. For example, you need water and you don't have enough water. Probably you need two water bottles to sustain for a day, but you will be getting only one water bottle. So that is a shortage. And what is surplus? You only need a plate of food, just one single plate of food, but you will be given with 5 or 6 plates of food. So that becomes a surplus. And it's written that any price above the equilibrium causes excess supply. That is, if the price, above the equilibrium, for example, this is the equilibrium, but the price equilibrium is the situation which is supposed to be at, and for those reasons, the price is up above it. What happens? Supply will go up when the price goes up. So in those cases, there will be shortage, and if the market, if uncontrolled, automatically arrive at equilibrium price at the supply equals demand. Anyway, it's gonna be like that, and any shift in demand and supply curve will result in new equilibrium. Comparisons of equilibrium is called comparative statics. And price ceiling and price floor, I think it's there in 7th standard NCRTs, I remember. I'm not sure which class. I've seen in one NCRTs and it's elaborately written. And that is price ceiling is, for example, the same onions example. Okay, I'm using this onions example throughout. For example, all the farmers are producing the onions and thinking that they're going to get lots of money. For example, it was 100 rupees per kg. But since all these farmers are producing onions, the price will also naturally go down. Okay, when the supply is going so much. So what happens? They might be forced to sell it at 10 rupees, which is below the expenditure cost. So what happens? The government will set up a certain criterion like MSP. So that is price floor. Okay, and price floor is the minimum support or the minimum price that someone have to pay you. So it's written that price floor is the price above the equilibrium price that the buyers have to pay. Yes, for example, the agriculture support price and the minimum wages. So these are basically set by the government, and you cannot force a farmer to sell it below the price. And price ceiling is, for example, you will find MSP, that is a maximum retail price. Okay, maximum selling price or maximum retail price. And for example, it is just 100 rupees. You can only, you can sure sell it for 90 rupees or whatever the percentage of margins that you have, but you cannot sell it beyond 100 rupees. So that is the maximum price for a good that you can sell. So that is the price ceiling. And this is elasticity. Like again, do not get scared by all these equations and all. You are not going to use equations. This is just for reference. That is, elasticity is sensitivity of quantity, that is percentage change in quantity demanded divided by percentage change in price. Okay, and elasticity is a measure of response, that is how much of uh, the change in demand with respect to the change in price has come about in the market is all about elasticity. And these are definitions, trying to make it complicated, but these are not complicated, it's very easy. Elastic is the quantity demanded changes more than in proportion to the change in price. That is, with regarding the price, the demand will be higher, and inelastic is that the quantity demanded changes less than in proportion to change in price, and the demand, it doesn't change much with regarding the price. For example, these essential commodities, they are inelastic to a large extent. And determinants of elasticity: number of closeness of substitute, proportions of income. Yes, so what is that that determines the elasticity? So first one is number and closeness of substitutes. For example, some people like saying that, just because coffee price is higher, I am not going to drink tea because tea is something else. You cannot say that substitute. And also the closeness of it and the availability of the substitutes, and the more they are closer or more they are similar to the other. And proportion of income taken up by the product, that is the smaller proportion, the more elastic. And that is, for example, I have 100 rupees as my income, and probably I can afford 10 rupees of pen. But if my salary is 100 rupees, I cannot go and buy 85 or 90 rupees pen. Okay. And price of products: lower the price, lower the elasticity, like we all know that. Luxury or necessity, for example, addictive drugs, we are going to give more importance to necessity products, and only after that the luxury ones. And time periods: the longer the time under the consideration, the more elastic good is likely to be. For example, you want something at this point, and when the time increases, yes, your demand will reduce, and the supply will also keep on varying depending upon that. Paradox of bumper harvest: this is the one that I explained about yesterday. That is, when price of food increases, the demand does not increase proportionally. Hence, the revenue earned by farmers fall. The government announces the floor price for the farmers and agriculture price subsidy. This interference with prices comes at a cost to the government in forms of shortage costs to government granaries. That is, for example, that is when the price of a crop increases, the demand wouldn't increase according to that. That because we all know that the when the price goes up, the demand will go down. Okay, even if that is an inelastic product, that if we are going to buy regarding of whatever the situation is. For example, rice and wheat. We are going to buy rice and wheat even if it's very rich. I mean, we very costly, because it's something that we are having. We need as a basic commodity, a basic essential commodity. But there are products, for example, carrots. If the price goes up, the demand wouldn't go up. The demand will go down, and hence the revenue earned by the farmers will go down. So what happens? The government will be announcing floor prices, that is a minimum support price to them, and in this way, okay, in this way they'll try to make it in a way that, okay, consumers could buy it. that they could buy from the government agencies. For example, the government is buying 10 rupees. The initial cost of the onions was 100, but the government will buy it at 100 because there is no other option for them. But they'll sell it to the consumers at 70 or 80 rupees, and the government will incur loss. The reason is that they have to bring an equilibrium to the state. So these are the policies or the schemes, or certain ways in which the government try to bring down all these fluctuations in a market. So this was very a short session, and I really hope your demand and supply, small demand, and your left is your supply. Just cross it. So when you have the basic picture in your mind, everything will start making sense. And just remember the basic concept, that is, when the demand goes up, what happens? The For example, we need more of onions. What happens? We need more of onions. Their supply will go up, and when the supply goes up, the price will go down. Okay, so just remember like that. Remember it like a story, and I really hope I was able to convey myself to everyone. And I really don't understand the tapioca example that you said. Okay, so that's it for today's class, and I really hope I was able to convey myself. So thank you so much. Tomorrow we'll be taking class on world history. So we'll take it in 3-day session, because we don't want to bore ourselves in just concentrating just one subject. So for 3 days we'll be studying one subject, and 3 days later the other. So from tomorrow onwards, that is from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it will be world history, and then you decide on which subject that you want next. So that's it all. Thank you all for joining here. Thank you so much.